Angel Reese has spoken out about Caitlin Clark's move to Europe, dismissing the rumors and claiming the decision was driven by financial motives. Rather than allowing Clark's European contract to pass without comment, Reese inserted herself into the conversation, seizing the spotlight and making sure her perspective became part of the story.
The fuck is that headline all about?
Yeah.
Yep,
She is the worst fucking basketball player.
In the WNBA, we've never witnessed anything quite like this. Someone so determined to stir up controversy. Still entangled in her own steroid scandal, Reese has now turned her attention to Caitlin Clark, throwing shade by claiming that players are only chasing paychecks and even going so far as to suggest that racism is being used as an excuse for sympathy.
We'll talk about Caitlin getting hate, but someone sat down and spent hours putting together an 8-minute video with interlude clips all to trash Angel. Why?
But when the entitled complaints are coming from Angel Reese, it makes news throughout the mainstream media.
And it's obvious she's aiming those comments at Clark. The wild part is that Caitlin has never once spoken negatively about Reese or any other black player, yet for some reason Reese continues to take shots. At this point, it feels like some people simply don't deserve the silent treatment any longer.
Blah, blah, blah. From Angel Reese.
We all know Caitlin Clark's move to Europe isn't just about exploring a new scene or chasing a bigger paycheck. It's about escaping the toxic circus the WNBA has turned into. On the surface, the league might have looked like the perfect stage for a player built to dominate, but the reality was far different. Instead of simply focusing on basketball, Clark found herself caught in the middle of scandals, side eyes, and drama, as if dodging off-court chaos had become part of her game plan.
Entitled players in the WNBA just can't seem to understand is, you get what you put in, and right now, you are getting exactly what you deserve.
And the reason was simple. She chose to stay silent while others tried to twist her into some kind of villain. Some fellow athletes and even a few media voices went as far as labeling her a racist, which left many wondering where such baseless claims even came from. But Clark, being the cool-headed competitor she is, never took the bait. She refused to waste energy on the noise and stayed locked in on the only thing that truly mattered: basketball. Still, the storm around her only grew louder, spiraling like the plot of a bad reality show.
So I think it's really just the fans, her fans, the Iowa fans, now the Indiana fans.
And then Alyssa Thomas, clearly not one to let things settle, decided to add fuel to the fire by publicly blaming Clark for racist comments made by her fans. Yes, you read that right. Thomas actually suggested that Clark bore responsibility for the words of random people in the stands, as if she had any control over what spectators chose to say.
I think in my 11-year career, I've never experienced the racial comments from the Indiana Fever fan base.
Absurd, right? It wasn't even about anything Clark did or said. Thomas was simply trying to deflect from her own struggles. She bundled up her frustrations, jealousy, and whatever else was simmering beneath the surface into one convenient accusation and hurled it straight at Clark.
Then she had a press conference where she cried and everybody's so mean to me. Well, she's continued the stupidity. I mean, she cheered on her teammate as she shoved Caitlin Clark, knocked Caitlin Clark in the head, and a bunch of other stupid stuff.
But here's the thing. Caitlin didn't have to do anything wrong to become a target. The overwhelming love she was getting from fans, the way her name dominated every highlight reel and headline, that alone was enough to ignite a jealousy bonfire in the WNBA. And it wasn't just random trolls online stirring the pot. It was players she shared the court with. Instead of celebrating her greatness, some simply couldn't handle it.
Unacceptable, honestly. And there's no place for it. And we've been professional throughout the whole entire thing, but I've never been called the things that I've been called on social media, and there's no place for it.
Angel Reese had her own moment in the spotlight, sure, but let's be honest. Clark's rise was on a completely different level, and it was clear Reese wasn't thrilled about it. While Clark was quickly becoming the face of the league, Reese was left watching from the sidelines as the spotlight passed her by. It didn't take long for resentment to build. Many players had spent their entire careers grinding, hoping for the kind of recognition Clark was getting, and then here she was a rookie, snatching it all up like it was nothing. Instead of stepping up their game, jealousy started doing the talking. Suddenly, every move Clark made was under the microscope, and her critics were ready to pounce on any excuse to drag her down.
But who gives a rat's ass?
That's why Europe feels like a sweet escape for Clark. It's not just about experiencing a different league with a new vibe. It's about finally breathing air that isn't poisoned by the toxic fumes the WNBA kept throwing her way. The jealousy, the petty accusations, the non-stop drama. None of it had anything to do with basketball anymore, and Clark knew it. She didn't owe anyone another second of her time in that mess.
No, it's going to Caitlin Clark fans are mean. And if Caitlin Clark fans are mean and they're white, where does this head? Oh, you know it goes to racist.
And while her critics keep busy stirring the pot, Clark is already miles ahead, doing what she's always done best, letting her games speak louder than all the noise. By choosing Europe over the WNBA offseason, she sent a clear message. She doesn't need to stick around for the nonsense. Let's be real. The atmosphere surrounding her in the WNBA had stopped being about basketball a long time ago. It had turned into a jealousy-fueled feeding frenzy, with players and commentators seizing every chance to tear her down, not because of anything she did, but simply because of how much the world was embracing her. And to them, that was the real crime.
Now they found another victim, the fans of Indiana. Now, I'm going to side a little bit with these idiots.
She didn't just throw shade. She backed up the whole dump truck and unloaded it, insisting Clark's move to Europe had nothing to do with escaping the WNBA's dumpster fire atmosphere. According to Reese, it was all about one thing: money. In her eyes, Clark was just chasing a bigger paycheck, nothing more. Forget the talk about toxic teammates or dirty play. Reese was convinced it was all just a cover. But let's be real for a second. Is this really about money? Or is Reese just trying to shift the spotlight away from her own mess? Her name is still plastered across headlines thanks to that steroid scandal, and her career is dangling by a thread. When you're that deep in the hole, it's a lot easier to point fingers than face your own baggage. So instead of owning up to being busted for performance enhancers, Reese seemed to decide, why not drag Caitlin Clark down with me?
Her attention, her notoriety is based off Caitlin Clark. Because she wins the national title, first thing she does, she mocks Caitlin Clark. And then she doesn't even celebrate with her teammates. So she's made it personal with Caitlin Clark.
And here's the kicker. Reese didn't stop at Clark. Oh no, she went full throttle, implying that every player in the WNBA is only in it for the money, Clark included. The irony here is so thick you could cut it with a knife. This is coming from the very same player whose career unraveled after being exposed for juicing to gain an edge. It's classic deflection. She's drowning in her own scandal, so she's tossing accusations around like confetti just to keep the heat off herself.
But Angel Reese, so she's sort of embraced a Draymond Green role here. But the eyeballs on the WNBA really have to do with Caitlin Clark.
Let's not forget the timeline. Clark's European move was announced in mid-October 2024, right as the WNBA season was wrapping up. Meanwhile, Reese was already getting roasted over her steroid suspension, with headlines dragging her name through the mud for weeks. By the time Clark was preparing for her European journey, Reese had been stuck in the spotlight for all the wrong reasons: steroids, EPO, anabolic drugs, you name it. Her reputation was already toast.
I do think that some of this drama, and she started some of it, to be fair.
Yet here's Angel trying to paint Clark as the greedy one, and honestly, it's almost laughable. Reese, who's facing rumors of a lifetime ban, lawsuits from the Chicago Sky, and a career circling the drain, somehow has the nerve to act like Clark's the one making shady moves. But the sports world isn't buying it. Analysts from Stephen A. Smith to Patrick Bet-David have been roasting Reese for her blatant hypocrisy, calling her out for using Clark as a distraction from her steroid scandal. And the public? They're pretty much done with Reese's antics.
I've heard all of that. It's real. We want to act like, well, let's not focus on that. Let's just march forward and let's just move forward. Well, guess what? You can't move forward when you ignoring the past.
When you zoom out and look at the bigger picture, Reese's downfall didn't begin with Clark's move to Europe. It started the moment those steroid allegations broke in early September 2024. News that Reese had tested positive for performance enhancers flipped the WNBA world upside down. She was suspended, her coach Teresa Weatherspoon was fired for allegedly enabling her, and the Chicago Sky even slapped her with a lawsuit. Meanwhile, as all this chaos unraveled, Clark was simply minding her own business, racking up wins and building her legacy.
Death threats, I've been sexualized, I've been threatened, I've been so many things, and I've stood strong.
But Reese just couldn't handle watching Clark succeed. And let's be honest, it's no secret she's been green with envy over Clark's rapid rise. The timing of her attacks on Clark is no coincidence. As Reese's own career went into free fall, the worse things got for her, the more aggressively she went after Clark.
Angel Reese is the villain, Caitlin Clark is the hero, and Angel Reese continued to play into it last night by getting ejected, and it's almost like it's all scripted. This is perfect for the WNBA. She's all the talk. She's the one standing up there in front of reporters saying, I need all of you guys to realize there's two of us that changed the game of women's basketball, and it's not just Caitlin Clark. I was a part of that.
Seeing a player who was once hailed as a rising star in the WNBA reduced to this. Remember when Angel Reese was setting records and being touted as the next big thing? Those days feel like a lifetime ago. Now, she's remembered less for what she accomplished on the court and more for getting caught with steroids.